Hey, construction champions, it's Ron Nussbaum, your host, and we're here for another week, another day, and another episode. I know you're out there crushing it, being the champions that you are in the industry, and that's why I'm bringing on another amazing guest to help teach you and show you different ways to go ahead and be that champion. So, Todd, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So Todd has another podcast that I have done. I have been on that with him. He is a wealth of knowledge in the industry. Before we dive in here, Todd, why don't you tell everybody just who you are, what you do, and how we got to here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Todd Weyandt. My 9 to 5, if you will. My day job is I'm Director of Marketing North America at Applied Software Graitec Group. So it's a software company that looks at the whole spectrum of AEC and manufacturing. Autodesk is a big part of that, but then we also have our own software that we have developed that kind of picks up where some of those workflows may leave off. And then we have a consulting arm to the company as well on if you want to kind of up level your business workflows and really get the best out of embracing technology. Our consultants come in and look at your business setup and what you guys are doing to really figure out where are the opportunities for tweaking and improvement. So like I said, I lead the marketing department there, and then kind of as a separate, super fun aside project, I host the Bridging the Gap podcast, which focuses in on innovation and technology in construction and really seeks to be a encouraging, uplifting arm to the construction industry.
Awesome. I love it. I love the conversation that we're going to have today. So I'm going to dive right in and ask the $1 million question. And that is, what makes a construction champion?
It's a great question. And I love the heart behind it. So passion for the industry, first and foremost, you got to have passion to really be that champion. But then I think not being afraid to call people out when needed and to kind of push their hands some. I know that's a big theme that we do on Bridging the Gap is help to kind of push where needed. And one of the huge problems I see, if I can step into that role for a second, is the marketing problem. Biased, admit it, with my background in marketing, but there's a huge marketing problem in construction that we do a bad job of telling our story to the outside world. And I think we got to step up to the plate and really make a compelling case and a compelling story for why people should get into the industry, or else we're always going to be suffering with the labor shortage problem that we have and not attracting new fresh blood into the industry. So champion, you got to have passion, you got to be willing to push, and then you got to be able to be encouraging and help people, win people over to your side and your cause and the vision that you see for the industry.
I love that. And it's kind of a different direction than I kind of saw the conversation going today, which is absolutely amazing. And, you bring in lots of years of experience in marketing. How can we do better as an industry?
I think first, this may sound not as tangible, but I'm going to start with it anyway. We have to believe that our story is cool. I think all too often when I am talking to construction companies of like, well, why aren't you going out and doing a better job telling your story and your marketing? They're like, well, we don't have anything really cool to say. The industry isn't fully buying in to the amazing wow factor of what we do every single day. I mean, you would not have a civilization without the construction industry. Literally, all buildings would crumble. You wouldn't be able to get on any roads. You have to have construction to do anything in life. And yet, for some reason, that there's a disconnect there, I think, as a whole, with people in the industry that they're not seeing in that framework. They just see it as they're going in and they're doing their job, and building a house gets made, and yeah, that's cool. They get to walk by and say, I had a hand in that, and that's cool. But they keep it at this at the ground level instead of kind of lifting their eyes up and seeing that bigger picture that civilization crumbles without construction.
That is so true. And I think back on it, it's just been in the last year and a half where I've really realized that I have a story, and my story does matter. And I can relate with what you're saying, is that when you're in that, you just kind of feel like it doesn't matter. It's not cool. But when I reflected as I've grown into this, I understand that it's really, really cool what we do. And if more people talked about that, it would be amazing, because you can that's how you really start to have a mindset shift in the industry, is if these great builders and contractors and home service providers start telling that story. And a lot of these guys have been in business for 10, 20, 30 years. Like, they have a real story to tell on the impact that they've had in their communities.
Yeah, for sure. I think a correlating problem with this is that, let's just be real and honest here. Culture has a stereotype against construction. It's not fair, but it exists. So we have to acknowledge that and be willing to kind of confront that head on. And I think one of the ways, this is a long, complicated thing, but one of the trails that comes off of that is this lack of owning our own story and communicating that with others. And so what's the ramification of that is you leave it to other people outside of construction to say what's going on in construction and paint this picture for the mass cultural market. And they have no idea what's going on in the industry. And so they're relying on these stereotypes from 50, 60 years ago that has nothing to do with what is happening on a job site now. Like, when I tell people that I host a podcast on construction technology, I get this crazy look. I'm talking about people outside of construction of like, what are you talking about? There's no technology in construction. Like a hammer's the technology. And you're like, no, you dummy. Like there's so much more here. Let me tell you all about it. And I think being willing to take be the tip of the spear in this kind of fight to tell what's actually happening. Construction has to step up to the plate, have the confidence to go in and be like, no, your stereotype and your perception is incorrect, and here's why, and really be willing to address that head on.
You're speaking to my heart. I mean, this is what this is about. It's moving the industry forward, blasting us into the 21st century, and getting rid of those stigmas and the status quo around the industry. I mean, I believe we're one of the only industries that allows 3% of the bad eggs dictate the entire reputation. And like you said, 50, 60 years of this is just kind of what it is. And we have done nothing to step up and just start to eliminate that. These are emotions that our customers have, and we have to address them. But we also, at the same time, have to let people understand that that's not who we are. Most of the people I know in the industry are the best guys you will ever meet. They would give you the shirt off their back if that's what it took. But they continue to get pigeonholed in this reputation that's not them. It's just the industry and how it's evolved. And I feel that we can make a great stride by coming together, having these conversations like what we're having right now, just an open, blunt, frank conversation about what's going on out there. And how do we manage that reputation and change it in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years to where our kids are stepping into that industry and it's a completely different realm.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that was kind of rattling in my head while you were just talking there too is on the communication side of things. And I love what you guys are doing to really address this problem head on. But construction needs to, maybe it goes back to some of the confidence side, but an area of improvement is on the construction piece. And I think that plays a lack of communication plays into the bad stereotypes. And if construction did a better job of being clear, being more precise in communicating, even if it's a delay, or even if stuff comes up and I don't know, there's a supply chain shortage. I'm speaking very hypothetical here. We haven't had to deal with this at all in the last couple of years here, but if we're upfront and we're honest about that, most people understand this. They intuitively get it. Like, yeah, of course, things come up, problems arise. What you opened up a wall and you didn't expect to find what you just found behind the wall. That happens every single day in construction. We just have to be kind of lead with that more instead of trying to maybe put a veil of competency over it of like, no, I got this. Just communicate that with the customer, and they're going to, it's going to build trust. It's going to build the even empathy between the contractor and the client that I think is needed in the industry to also help break down those stereotypes. Does that make sense? Did I just ramble?
Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense. We had a guest a few episodes back that brought up, because it comes to communication a lot, and between employees and contractors, homeowners, customers, all of that, we hear communication. They reference that they did some research in this, and going back to 1991 is one of the first articles you can find where it speaks to communication in the construction industry is a disaster. And we really haven't done anything since 91 other than just kind of sidestep it and say, hey, that's just what the industry is. And there's a lot of conversation happening around it right now, because it's something that needs to be moved forward. What we need to do is continue to just become better communicators in the industry, whether that's with our employees or our customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to make it personal, 2 years ago, we did a huge home renovation and gutted pretty much everything in the main floor of our house and redid the whole kitchen. It was a huge project. We had a great relationship with our contractor. I'm obviously in this space as well too, and there would just be periods where I wouldn't hear it because he was waiting on something, and he wouldn't tell me that he was waiting on something, and so frustrations would build up of like, hey, what's going on with this project? Why do we stall out when we have it all studied? Like, what are we waiting for? And then it would be a while, and then he would come up with, oh, I was waiting on this supplier and this vendor, and I was like, okay, I get that. Just tell it to me. Like, that's fine. I'm not going to be mad at you because you're waiting on somebody. That happens. Just tell it to me. Then I'm not frustrated at all during that kind of 2 week, 3 week, whatever it was, wait period. Just share it out.
Yeah. And I think for some reason we feel like we don't have to or shouldn't. We kind of get cold feet when it comes to that. So being that, you're one of the best in the industry when it comes to marketing and the storytelling, how can the guys out there today listening, what are a couple actionable items that they can take to be able to start to tell their story to create a better narrative for them and the entire industry?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. A couple things. First, don't overcomplicate it. I think we have a tendency to, when we're thinking of storytelling, we have to come up with this, Hollywood movie idea in order to make anybody buy it. That's not true. The simpler, the better is the reality. Another huge thing to keep in mind that I think is a big mindset shift in a lot of people's mind when you're telling a story is you are, in fact, most definitely not the hero of the story that you're trying to tell in marketing, at least when you're marketing your company and your business. Why would the customer and the end user want you as the hero when they see themselves as the hero? So you're setting it up as this kind of contradiction, and that you guys are at odds with each other if you're describing yourself as the hero because the customer has themselves as the hero. So being able to make that pivot in your mind that you're not the hero, you're the guide of the story, that's a huge, powerful switch. And to give an example of it, my example is Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings series. I'm going to let my dork card fly here for a second. So Frodo, hero of the story. That's a great character, not taking anything off of Frodo, but who's the kind of the action and the power and the driving force behind everything that happens? I'm going to go with Gandalf, who's the guide of the story. Frodo can't accomplish anything without Gandalf helping him, guiding him along the path, helping him kind of clear out obstacles, helping him even lead and straight into obstacles, knowing that he's going to grow and learn and develop from it as well too. That's what a customer is looking for, a guide, because they want to know that you have the experience. They want to know that you've been able to successfully guide other heroes to their destination. And if you tell that story of how you have helped come alongside of people and guided them to become their ultimate hero, ultimate champion, that's a much more powerful story than you just saying, look how good I am. I've conquered all these things. It's kind of a boring story that nobody really wants to hear except for you. Shift and tell the guide.
But I think that's a great way to look at it, is becoming that guide instead of that hero in our own stories and in our company's stories, to help work the homeowner through that. I mean, that's what they really want. They want to be educated. They just want to understand, and they want to be walked through that. And at the end of the day, they end up looking like the hero because they made the right decision with the right contractor, the right builder, that right home service provider. That I love how you break that down there and make that so simple as an analogy to look at.
Yeah, and flipping it so that you're the guide, you have an infinite number of stories to tell them, because now you're just telling your clients stories and what they've been through and how you came alongside of them, instead of trying to. I think that when you cast yourself as the hero, there's so much pressure on your storytelling then. But if you cast yourself as the guide, well, that's just what you do every single day. You know that story. You're able to communicate that very well and very effective, and you know the pitfalls because you probably have hidden them and figured out how to get out of them, and that's okay to tell that side of the equation as well too, because it brings in a healthy dose of realism and trustworthiness there.
Yeah, I've always found, going back through my career, is, the more times that you can just tie back something to something that happened at some point in time with a homeowner, the more they're going to look at you as just a human and not somebody out there that's just trying to do something.
Right.
I was out at Johnny's house last week, and man, we opened it up and here's what we found. And, this looks kind of similar. I don't know if when we open it up, we're going to exactly find the same thing, but, it wasn't very good when we got in there.
Right. Yeah. And then this is how we went about it. This is kind of our methodology, if you will. When we come to a problem like that, this is our approach to it. This is the next step that we'll do. And you kind of describe that workflow and that journey to them. And like I said, people understand that intuitively if we just kind of open up our mind to them and communicate what's happening and kind of what we're thinking about. Now, an issue is that you have to kind of think a couple steps ahead and know what your methodology, your workflow is in that. And sometimes people are just kind of winging it on the fly. So that's another issue.
Yeah, that can definitely become an issue if you got somebody out there that doesn't exactly know, and then they just end up winging it like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So besides telling the story to the homeowner, where do you recommend guys get their story out to? What should we be doing? Should we be making videos or talking about what is the best route for guys to do that today?
Yeah. Well, I think social media, you have to be out on social in some form or fashion. Don't try to be all things to all people and all platforms, though. I think you got to know kind of where your demographic that you're targeting is. So, for example, if you're trying to go after Gen Z, they're not necessarily coming into being homeowners just yet, but obviously they're out on TikTok, and so you would go there. If you're wanting my cohort of generation, millennials representing, we're more Instagram on social media. So it depends. And then obviously kind of the boomers. So this is a stereotype, but they're going to be out on Facebook and go out there. As part of the original Facebook generation, it's moved on from us now. So I think you gotta know which demographic that you're trying to target, because that's going to tweak how and what kind of messaging and format that you're sending out there. TikTok, obviously, super short videos. Facebook, you got a little bit more time to kind of breathe and let that communicate your message out there, because you got more real estate to work with.
I love it. And figuring that out. I mean, it's something I think I'm in a lot of places right now. And actually this weekend I spent some time, I was thinking about where do I need to be and where shouldn't I be? Kind of stuff. Exactly what you're talking about. We all got to kind of figure out what is that ideal, where's our ideal audience, and are we putting out content that appeals to them and makes sense for them? Do you recommend just putting your story on a video and start putting that out there, or talking about it that way, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's super easy for all of us to grab our phones, flip it into selfie mode. I mean, these take awesome videos. So there's really no excuse that is credible to not do a video, because it's iPhone makes it so easy to do it, and it's good quality. Face a lighting source, put the sun close to you so that's shining on you, so you're lit up, and just start talking. And it's gonna probably not be great at the start, and that's okay. You got to get comfortable with it and get better, and every single time you do it, you get a little bit better, and you get a little bit more comfortable with it, and a little more natural when you see that figurative red light come on that you're recording. You got to get comfortable with that. So yeah, just start doing something is my encouragement to that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be brilliant. It's okay to struggle with it at the beginning of it. Keep in there.
I 100% agree. And for all the Android users out there as well.
Yeah, sorry, I let my Apple bias come in there.
I'm an iPhone user as well, but I could already hear the Android users saying, "Oh, I don't have an iPhone." Well, the Android takes just as good of videos. You can get on there. They still upload to social media. It still all works. And I'm a component of, you do get better at it. Now, if you follow me on any social media, you might not think I'm getting any better at it, but go back about 6 months and take a look at my original videos. I've come a long ways, but getting comfortable with it does happen. I mean, it's something that I didn't think initially I didn't think it was for me. For years, I put this off, and now I look at it as I should have been doing this years ago. So don't be in that boat. Start doing it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, my first couple episodes are super rough, and please don't go back and listen to those at all. I think you gotta give yourself license to grow and to mess up. And in my opinion, when you fail and you mess up, I know fail sounds like it's super hard and dramatic, but when you fail, that's the best time to learn and to grow. That's when you learn and grow. You're not really truly learning and growing when you're succeeding. It's when you fail and you have to pick yourself back up and figure out, okay, why didn't that work? And you start tweaking and playing with different things. That's the biggest opportunity for growth. So maybe shift your paradigm again, that it's not failing. It's just learning, just growing, and that's okay. Take some pressure off.
Which is what being a champion is all about. It's just continuing to learn, to continuing to get better. As we work through the Construction Champions podcast here, I feel like I'm getting better. We'll see what the listeners have to say. The comments might say something different, but I keep working at it. I bring on amazing guests like yourself that really, you guys carry the weight for me. So I love it. You've done a great job here today. And if any of the listeners wanted to get a hold of you or reach out to you, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, I tease that it's my drug of choice. I love LinkedIn, so I'm definitely there. I think I'm probably the only Todd Weyandt that is on there. If not, there's very few of us. We should be very easy. I should be very easy to find. And then the website's bridgingthegappod.com. They can go out there and see any past episodes or get in touch with me through the website as well.
Maybe check out those first few episodes.
Yeah, maybe not. It'll give me grace if you're gonna check out those first few episodes.
Who do you think? Hey, now we touched on some of the other social medias. Your drug of choice is LinkedIn. Who's hanging out on LinkedIn, would you say?
Yeah, it's a lot of surprisingly a lot of construction is out on LinkedIn now. Now I'm from it on the technology aspect of it and the software side, so they're out there as well. But really, I've seen a full spectrum of construction really coming into LinkedIn. I think for a long time it was viewed as the place where you go when you're trying to look for a job and you just put your resume out there. But it's such a collaborative space now, so it's a lot of the kind of innovators that are trying to help push the industry forward. At least that's who I find in my network that is out there on LinkedIn. And then age demographics, probably 30s to 50s is would be my age breakdown, putting my marketing hat on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day here to join us here on Construction Champions.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Construction Champions. It's another great episode in the bag. And some of the advice that was just talked about here can completely change your business, not just from a marketing perspective, but from a mindset perspective and how your customers think about what you do and how you do that. So today, as always, I say, go look in the mirror. Go look in the mirror and ask yourself, what is the story that you're painting to your customers? Is it the great story that the construction industry is? Or are you feeding into a narrative that is 50, 60 years old and no longer fits what we do today? These are great questions that Todd asked today and brought out in front of us to our knowledge base to be able to think about. So, Construction Champions, until next time, be the champion you were meant to be.